guys, welcome back to another episode of The Vegan View. So I was reading through some of our comments, and did you guys know that vegan men are effeminate soy boys and not even vegan women date them?
Wow.
Wow. Breaking news.
All right.
I'm Dani.
I'm NISHA.
I'm Nicole.
I'm Hannah. And this is
The Vegan View.
So we thought for this topic of vegan and masculinity that we would bring in the most effeminate soy boy we know, my husband and baby daddy, Austin.
Hi, guys.
Being sarcastic here. Austin is vegan, but I don't think he's, meets the stereotype and all that stuff of what people assume a vegan should be.
Yeah. Austin is, 6'7"?
Yeah.
He plays basketball. He's like just a big athletic guy. And you guys have talked about how when you were growing up, it was like you felt like, oh, I have to eat a lot of meat because you're a big guy. And I think that's something that a lot of guys definitely feel. Did you feel that when you were growing up, that you were like, oh, I have to eat meat, I could never go vegetarian?
Yeah. I think you told the story before of like when I would go to restaurants as a kid, like with my dad, and he would just like always order the biggest steak or order me 2 of them or something like that. Just like he would just kind of put it on me like, oh yeah, you're growing manly boy. You need to eat your beef and it's going to make you big and strong or whatever. So yeah, it's just from a young age growing up, everybody around me just always kind of assumed I was going to be like big meat eating boy. And I mean, it kind of stuck for a while.
It's really funny because when you think of a vegan guy, before you go vegan, you kind of think of someone who is pale, thin, kind of scrawny.
Hippie.
Wearing that like hemp little
They like
sweater.
Braid their armpit hair.
Yeah.
Wow, that's talent. I've never seen that.
There's a YouTube tutorial. We'll link it below.
Oh, yeah. What did you think about vegans before you went vegan?
Oh, in my mind, it was just like, I'm never going to be able to go vegan, always going to be eating my meat, always eating dairy, egg, all that stuff. And it's just like, it's normal. People who don't eat it are weird. I remember in college, Dani showed me a video, like a slaughterhouse video. And she's like, come on, just watch it with me. Because she was vegetarian at the time. She went like kind of on and off throughout like the whole time we've been together. And she showed it to me and I was like, okay, I'm hungry, let's go get a burger. And I was just like trying to be sort of funny about it. Mm-hmm. But like looking back on it now, I can tell you I was affected by it. I did think it was cruel. I did think it was messed up that happens. And I just kind of assumed that was what was expected of me to respond with like, oh, haha, I'm going to go eat a burger and be like manly man. That's just like, that's what I need to do. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really mean it at the time. And I know that now, but like back then it was just like what was expected of me.
Well, did you feel that way when you were starting to sort of have these things clicking in your mind and you were thinking, wait, I actually agree with that, or that makes sense to me, and you felt that you could go vegan? Did you have that in your mind that, oh, but I'm going to get made fun of, or people, or am I going to get, like, were you concerned about your protein and like all those other things that so many guys are worried about? I
think for me it was such like, I say it was a slow process, but it was really actually pretty quick. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, it was like I took stepping stones along the way. YouTube was a huge resource for me, so I would watch all sorts of videos. I would throw on like a playlist of videos while I was in the car and just listen to stuff.
Oh, cool.
And just kind of like get all the facts in my brain. And like with that's the only thing that really drove me. I didn't care if people were going to make fun of me or anything like that.
What were some of the things that were the most influential for you as a guy in going vegan? Like, which arguments were the most persuasive?
My main thing that started me off is realizing that human bodies aren't made to eat meat. Mm-hmm. That was the big stepping stone for me. I was always like, oh, canines, yeah, you're not supposed, we need meat because look at these sharp teeth.
Yeah.
And then like finding an argument against that, and then our jaws, our eyes, our intestines, our stomach acid, our acidity in our mouths, like all that stuff adding up just makes so much sense to me. Mm-hmm. And everything else just kind of fell in line after that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Gary Yourofsky, part of his best speech ever, maybe like a 5-minute clip of it, just kind of went over all those things that design it. And that's probably one of the main things that stuck with me.
Something that I find interesting that happens a lot within our group of friends or family members especially is people always assuming that asking Austin if he's vegan because I'm vegan,
Mm-hmm.
or, oh, is Danny making you be vegan? It's always people assuming that he's doing this because, like, I'm making him or something like that, when, like, in reality, we all know you can't make someone go vegan.
Right.
So I don't know, how do you feel about that or, like, respond to that?
I mean, yeah, people ask me that all the time. You hear it all the time too. It's just, fact of the matter is, I probably, completely honest, wouldn't be vegan if it wasn't for Danny. But that doesn't mean I'm vegan because of Danny. She opened my eyes to a lot of things. You know, she made me sit down, watch documentaries, and it sparked my curiosity, made me watch those YouTube videos, and made me learn for myself. But she never forced me to do anything. It's more so educating me and opening up my curiosity to educate myself.
But why do you think that people would assume that you would only be vegan because of the female in your life? Not
I get that too
Yeah.
with my boyfriend, because we went vegan at the same time, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're vegan because Hannah's vegan."
Yeah, my boyfriend's not even vegan, and people ask me that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, is NISHA forcing you to be
Why
vegan?
could a man only be vegan
Yeah.
if his girlfriend makes him be vegan or
Yeah.
encourages him to be vegan?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going back to the topic of the video, is just people assume that if you're vegan, you're not masculine. Like you lose some sort of testosterone income or something along those lines, and just it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't.
Do you think because you're this tall, big guy, you're traditionally very masculine looking, do you think that helps you have more of a strong ground, whereas opposed to someone who's like a man and identified as a man, who's like smaller, thinner, kind of scrawnier, not as big into sports? Do you think they would have a harder time with trying to reason?
Maybe it might just have like the natural, like, stereotypical view of it, and people see that stereotype and they're like, hey, that's not me, so I don't need to do what he's doing, you know?
Right.
So I feel like if people see me and I'm explaining this to them, and they're similar to me in every aspect except for our diet and our views of animals, that's the one thing that differentiates us. Like, it might open their eyes a little bit more to the idea of it.
Yeah, I think that's a huge privilege you have, because you are like a man's man, and I think that a lot of guys would identify with you and see that it's not effeminate to be vegan.
Yeah, and I do see that, like, when I make it a point not to announce to the world that I'm vegan, or say like, hey, I'm going to order the vegan option. I want people to, like, ask me, oh, why are you ordering that? And I want them to bring it to me. I want them to start the conversation, because I don't want to be that pushy, hippie vegan person that's preachy or anything like that. If they bring it up to me, it's on.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be that one pushing it on people. So when people see me ordering those sort of things, they tend to ask me, because it doesn't seem like something that I would order because of the way I look or how big I am or anything like that. So it does tend to spark up some conversations when I sit down with someone for lunch. Or
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So it's more interesting to them, because it's kind of like an anomaly. It does spark conversation, give you that power to challenge people's opinions.
I think there's huge power in it too, because my boyfriend is vegan, and he kind of gets the same reaction when he orders stuff that's vegan. He's also very not pushy, but it always brings up the conversation, and I find that he influences so many more people. Even though I have this platform and I'm very vocal about it, he influences so many more people to go vegan, that he's constantly getting texts from friends or people he works with being like, oh, I'm going to be vegan this week, or I've cut out meat, and they're so excited to tell him about it, and I don't get that quite same response. And I do wonder if it's because he's not what you picture the typical vegan to be, because I'm female and emotional and all these things. Oh, she just loves animals so much, that's why she's vegan. And it just gives them an excuse when they see somebody who's strong and masculine who's vegan. They're like, oh, well, maybe I could be vegan too.
Right.
I actually think it goes back more, like, obviously historical, because the hunting and gathering thing, hunting was what the men did. So I think it's like a little bit ingrained in our brains that men kill and eat animals, and it's more of a female thing to eat vegetables. And also, we've been watching Game of Thrones, but it's like made me think, like, wow, back in those days, like, men like killed people all the time, and death was not supposed to faze them, and seeing like that gruesome stuff was supposed to just, like, if you got emotional, like, you were not a real man and all that stuff. And obviously things are not like that today, but I think that is still a little bit in our society.
It's such a culture thing. My grandpa and my dad are always quick to talk about soy and how soy gives you man boobs, which is why I thought that comment was so funny to me, because obviously it doesn't, because we have men in our lives who are vegan and don't have man boobs. But do you ever get that comment from people, and if so, how do you respond to it?
Not specifically man boobs,
Yeah,
but just
because they see you, so they can't.
Yeah,
they can't say
it's
anything.
like oh, soy that has estrogen, it's bad for you, it's gonna do this, that, all sorts of different soy claims. And then every time someone comes to me and says that, I just tell them it's phytoestrogen. It's not the same as normal estrogen. You're going to get a more potent estrogen from beer. Do you go around telling people that beer is going to give them man boobs? I don't think so. Yeah.
I didn't know that one.
I always use that as an analogy because beer is a manly drink and men are supposed to drink beer and enjoy it and all that stuff. And it kind of like opens their eyes a little bit.
That's such a good thing to say.
And people say that and they're like eating a cheeseburger, and you don't think that something that comes from an animal's breast has more estrogen.
Yeah.
Even organic, cows that aren't given any hormones have more estrogen in their milk than
because it's
a soy milk would have of phytoestrogen. And they're very different compounds. They have similar molecular structures, but they get processed in the body differently. And it's so funny because you're more likely to get man boobs from milk than anything soy. And I mean, I wish soy gave me
That's
boobs.
my favorite.
I know. If soy gave you boobs, don't you think that so many women would be like, yeah. It's always interesting to me too how people are so concerned about soy, and then they're so concerned about your protein intake, but they never ask a meat eater or anyone doing paleo or anything, where do you get your protein? Oh, but what about soy? That's too much soy.
Or where do you get your fiber?
90%
of Americans aren't eating enough fiber.
Yeah. But they feel like they are somehow now nutrition experts that calculate all of their dietary intakes, that they know
all their micronutrients.
They know the exact amount that you should be having. And do you get the protein question a lot?
Yeah, specifically it always sparks in my memory. There was this one guy at work that came to me and like saw what I was eating. He's like, "Oh, why are you eating that? I don't see any meat." And I'm like, "I'm vegan." He's like, "Oh, I'm paleo. Where do you get your protein?" I get mine from meat.
I just picture like a caveman fat, like.
Well, this was like paleo CrossFit, like big dude.
Yeah.
And he says, "What are you eating?" I'm like, "Oh, it's just like some rice, beans, lentils." And he's like, "Oh, where do you get your protein?" From the rice, beans, and lentils.
I wish I could respond that chill too, just from the rice, beans, and lentils.
Because he came so like confrontational to me. My goal was to kind of make him feel dumb.
Yeah,
it's just
I like it.
Dude, I probably have just as much protein in my meal as you do, so don't worry about it. I'm good.
Yeah,
like just kind of brush it off. But that's just kind of like my go-to reaction for that kind of stuff is like. Yeah.
Educating people.
Yeah.
Going back to Jesse having friends texting him about being vegan, he's had a few guy friends that have texted him saying that they want to go vegan, and they'll try it for a week, and then he'll follow up with them in about a week, and they'll be like, "Oh, I had to go back to eating meat because I just wasn't getting full enough, and I already eat so much as a meat eater that going vegan, I was hungry all the time." Mm-hmm. So what would you recommend to men who maybe are saying that they can't be vegan because they eat so much and they're not?
It's frustrating for me because I hear that a lot. Like I wouldn't be able to get full enough, and I eat a ton. It's just you got to make sure you're eating enough calories to make your way through the day. Like if you're eating this much steak and then you switch to this much rice and beans, of course you're going to be hungry. Mm-hmm. You need to eat a larger quantity of the food if you're switching over, and a spinach salad's not going to do it for me ever. Mm-hmm. Like I'm always eating tons of potatoes, rice, beans, lentils, stuff that's calorically dense enough to fill me up, and I'm eating a lot of it.
But you see it as a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it as I have to eat that much. I see it as I get to eat that much. Mm-hmm. I get to eat so much more food than you do, and I'm probably hovering around like the same weight as you too. Like it's, I don't know. It's frustrating to me every time someone brings something like that up because it's so common sense that if you eat the same quantity of food and you switch over, you're going to get less calories, you're going to be less full, you're not going to eat as much. Of course, you're not going to get as much protein as you were before because you're not eating enough foods.
For men's fitness, we've talked about this in our What the Health video, but men's fitness concentrates a lot on looking in the now, like how big and how fast can you bulk up and how trim can you get as fast as possible, while veganism, when you eat like a whole foods plant-based diet, it really concentrates more on longevity of life. And there's a reason that men die earlier. It's not, there's some factors with like estrogen preserving longevity, but there's a lot of men who die from purely preventable diseases like heart disease, stroke, and food-related cancers. That's a huge factor.
Not even cutting back on meat, but I read a fact somewhere. If everyone in the world increased their vegetable servings by 1 per day, there would be 20,000 less cases a year of cancer.
Right.
That's just not cutting back on meat. That's just increasing your vegetables. And then
especially prostate cancer is hugely linked with the amount of fiber in your diet.
Yeah.
You can't get fiber from meat and cheese and eggs.
And then on top of that, if you completely go vegan, that's 15% of cancer is what I've read. So if you were to completely eliminate all that, that's a lot of lives.
Aren't all these things making your body stronger? And isn't that stereotypically what it is to be a man?
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay. I think it's really important to keep in mind that we are talking about traditional masculinity standards, like being strong and how you look, but gender is really a societal illusion. It's a societal construct.
So what do you think it is that makes someone masculine and makes you a man? Is it what you eat and what you consume and how emotional you are, or what do you think it is?
I mean, I don't think being emotional makes you any less of a man from the get-go. Like, I've shed my fair share of tears since Brody's been born. Like, I was always like a never cry kind of guy, but now like having a son, it just kind of like opens things up, makes things more real whenever I see something. And I don't think I'm any less of a man for it. But yeah, it really is how you treat people. If you treat everyone with respect and you carry yourself well, it doesn't matter what you're putting in your body or anything like that. That doesn't define you as a man. It's how you act and how you treat others.
Thank you for coming on our show.
No
Yeah,
problem.
thanks for
It
coming.
was a
Thanks
really
for coming
far
downstairs.
Yeah, it was a really far trek for me.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Let us know what thoughts you have in the comments down below. And please join our Facebook group. It's full of awesome people, and we always are talking about interesting things and a lot of positivity in there. We'll link that down below, and all of our individual channels and our Instagram page. Check that out, too. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in next week's episode. Bye.
Bye.